Good evening, everyone, and thank you for signing up and joining us for our first ever virtual Game Changers event. As you can tell, I'm still rusty, but I'd like to thank you for joining us. Thank you for signing up, and thank you for viewing here this evening. My name is Caleb Talley. I'm the Director of Marketing Events for the Startup Junkie Foundation. For those of you who are not familiar with the Startup Junkie Foundation, we are a nonprofit, mission-driven organization based here in Northwest Arkansas, with the goal of empowering innovators and entrepreneurs. And we do that through one-on-one consulting, as well as events like this one, at no cost to our entrepreneurial community. Before we get started tonight, I wanted to go ahead and also thank Go Rogue X. You cannot see them, but they are manning our cameras tonight. They do an incredible job, and they are making us look great and professional. And I was told that their cameras take 10 pounds off rather than adding 10 pounds. So y'all will be the judge of that. And that was a free one. I didn't even put that on my note card. This evening, I am honored to be joined by Mr. Cameron Smith of Cameron Smith and Associates, one of the nation's leading recruiting firms. Since its founding in 1994, Cameron Smith and Associates is responsible for luring hundreds of Walmart suppliers to Northwest Arkansas and creating thousands of jobs. Mr. Smith, we really appreciate you for being here with us this evening.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here.
I'm just going to jump right off into our questions. Okay. Like most great entrepreneurs, you saw an unmet need here in Northwest Arkansas when you came to Arkansas, and you went about trying to address it. The result of that was Cameron Smith and Associates. What was that unmet need, and how and why did you tackle it?
I guess it was 1994. I had been recruiting in a variety of different industries, and back then when jobs were open, they advertised them in a newspaper. It was way before job boards. And I kept seeing an ad for a Huffy bicycle company calling on Walmart. And back then, my associates were a yellow pad and a telephone. It was just me by myself. So I didn't really pay attention to the ad. And it came reoccurring every day. The ad would run and run and run. But the second week, I thought to myself, I'm going to call Huffy bicycle company, see if I can get that search. Now, keep in mind, I have never even been above Fayetteville at the time. I knew Walmart was up there somewhere, but I didn't know where. So I called Huffy Bicycle Company, and they were ecstatic that there was a recruiter down there that might be able to help them. So I took the search on, started doing some research, and I realized there were a cluster of Walmart vendors. That's what we called them back then, in and around the Bentonville and Rogers area. And I believe there were about 45 to 50 of them at the time. So I did my recruiting. I had plenty of candidates. I ultimately filled that Huffy job. But during the course of my travels and the interviews with all the potential candidates, one thing resonated with me. They all said they couldn't understand why every supplier or vendor to Walmart wouldn't have an office here, that in some cases it doubled or tripled their business. So I kept hearing this over and over again. So I go back to Fort Smith where I was living, and I do my research. I see Walmart does business with 20,000 plus vendors. There's only 45 to 50 of them here. So that was the need that was unmet. So I started calling companies and tried to tell them about this niche that I ran into, and that they should pay attention to it. But they didn't really pay attention to me. It was a recruiter trying to close a deal. So I went back to that existing base of people that I had met during my travels, and I had them write why Bentonville testimonials. Why should a supplier or vendor be here? What has it done for your business? Well, those were very compelling, and it was on their company stationery. So back then, of course, we were faxing things. I'd fax those into Hallmark and Hasbro and all these different companies. And that's when the light went on with these guys. And then, my phone was ringing off the hook with searches. People wanted an account manager. Back then, all you needed was a national account manager and a retail league analyst. And so I was busier, all get out, and I really couldn't hire recruiters quick enough to manage the business. So fast forward 25 years later, there are 1,600 plus Walmart vendors here. And I believe we're responsible for bringing more than 500 of those teams here and helped facilitating maybe close to 5,000 jobs. It's been a great run, and we're very grateful.
Wow. So, from a legal notepad to one of the country's best recruiting firms, that requires a heck of a mindset to go about tackling that and setting out to do what you did. Can you attribute your mindset to the success you've had, and or maybe even some habits you can
Yeah,
attribute to your
well,
success?
the executive search business is a great business, but it's not an easy business, and it's not for everybody. And it takes a special skill set and a special kind of person. And it's taken me a lot of years of having some mishires to realize the type of person that really needs to be in this business. You've got to have your number one, we're in sales. I mean, we have to make 3 sales in order to close a deal. We have to sell the company on our candidate. Wait a minute. We have to sell a company on our service, and the company on the candidate, and then the candidate on the company. And if you think about it, we have the only product, a candidate, that can refuse to be sold. So trust me, we're in sales. um, Other than that, for me, I I was attracted to the business because of the art of the deal. I love that. And then the second thing was the fact that I had an uncapped income potential. I've always been money motivated, and that just resonated with me. And I'm in my 33rd year of business right now, and I still love it.
And you kind of touched on there, mentioned that the journey and maybe some mishires or some things you've done. This is a Game Changers event, and you're certainly a game changer in Northwest
Mhm.
Arkansas. Has there been a game changing moment in your career, a decision that you can point to and say that really made a difference?
Yeah, 2 of them come to mind. First and foremost, and this will sound a little cheesy, but it's a true story. When I first relocated to Arkansas, my wife and I had met, and I'm sure you'll get into that a little later, but and we met on vacation. I moved to Arkansas in 92. And I'm trying to think here. Rephrase the question again. I'm
Just
kind
a
of
game
losing my
changing
track.
moment in your career.
Okay. So the business just was not taking off the way I really wanted it to. So I was stressing out. We got down to the point where we had to have a garage sale to pay our bills one month. And I had taken on 2 of her kids, and I had kids in California, and it was very stressful. I found myself getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and just turning the TV set on and trying to figure out what I was going to do. And this knucklehead came on the TV set named Tony Robbins, and he just went on and on and on, rambled on and on. And I had one ear there, and I was daydreaming in the other. And I started focusing and paying more and more attention to this guy, and something just clicked. So I took my last $180, I think, and I bought those big tapes back then. So they came in, and I opened them up, threw them on the table. And the next morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, I started. And from the very first tape, my life was changed. And I don't know if that would work for everybody, but for me, hitting the bottom, needing something to pep me up. I mean, literally, I jumped off that chair, the first tape, ran right to the gym, worked out, said hello to everybody in the gym. I was just a new person. So it was a 30-day program, and I went through it like probably 5 times. And then when I first started my firm, I made everybody in my firm go through that same thing. So that was one game-changing moment. The second changing moment was similar to what the first question was. When I was recruiting in one area and I pivoted towards Walmart suppliers, that was certainly the other game-changing moment for me.
And you mentioned there just for a second about your wife Monica, and I think that the story of how you met and courted Monica really kind of highlights the determination you have. Do you mind sharing that story?
Are you sure you're ready for that one? So we were both in Vegas at the same time. When I did a speech at Cross Church, I refer to as city with a lot of lights. I didn't want to say Las Vegas, but we were both in Vegas at the same time, and I was up there for the Holyfield fight with a bunch of buddies. She was there with her girlfriend, and we were going to play golf that morning. And I woke up, ran downstairs. I put a pair of gym shorts on and a ball cap and flip flops and LA Times under my arm, and just wanted to get some pancakes before we played golf. And the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life walked up and got back in line. And I was just like, oh my gosh, look at her. And the guy I'm with saying, why don't you go meet her? I'm going, yeah, right. Look at me. I didn't even brush my teeth. I wasn't about to go approach a young lady. So I just stared. I went up to get coffee at the same time as her, and she didn't pay attention. So anyway, I went and played golf that day, and I came back, and I had just broken up with a relationship, so a little more motivated than normal. And I started thinking, this was breakfast. She has to be staying in this hotel. So I went back to my room, and I called the operator. I said, I want to check and see if a friend of mine is here. Please don't ring the room. Monica Tucker. What does she do? She rings the room. And she picks it up on one ring. All of a sudden I'm going, I didn't know what to say. So I put a couple of years acting lessons to work, and I go, hello, Miss Tucker, this is the front desk. May I speak to Mr. Tucker, please? I want to see if she was married. She goes, well, there's no Mr. Tucker. I'm here with my girlfriend. I go, well, I'm so sorry. With the gentleman you're with? No, I'm not here with the gentleman. I'm here with my girlfriend. And then she asked me for a late checkout, and I gave her one, of course. And then I said, think. I said, Miss Tucker, I'm so sorry, but the computers went down last night. I'm going to re-register you. And got to get your home address, please, and your phone number. And she gave it all to me. But it was Russellville, Arkansas. I was living in Laguna Beach. I just went, oh boy, crumbled up the paper, threw it in my briefcase, and went on. About 6 weeks later, I'm find that piece of paper. So what the heck? And I picked it up and I called without thinking. I make my living on the phone. It's not going to be a problem. So I called her, and she answered. It was a dental office in Russellville. I go, are you Monica Tucker? Yes. Were you in Vegas about 6 weeks ago? Brown polka dot dress? Yes. Why? I go, well, do you remember this voice? Hello, Miss Tucker. This is the front desk. And she goes, click, hangs up on me. And I call back, and everything I said, I sounded like a stalker. And finally I realized I scared this lady. So I said, look, here's the deal. I'm sorry I scared you. I went about this the wrong way. I'm not going to bother you anymore. Here's my name and number. If you ever get out to LA, give me a call. I hung up. I go, way to go, you idiot. You had her on the phone. You blew it. So I just forgot about it, went about my business. 3 months later, and I'm getting very serious with a young lady at this point. I come back, we had an answering machine that had lights on it, and I answered, played the machine back, and she goes, hi, this is Monica from Arkansas. I just called to say hi. Click. This is before caller ID. When Monica in Arkansas? I'm a good headhunter, but I'm not that good. So I sort of combing through my desk, and I found that napkin with her phone number on it. I called her the next day, and we talked, and she was going to go back out to Vegas in about 3 weeks. We talked for every day for 3 weeks and got to know each other. And what started off as having lunch together, it turned out I got a limousine, a presidential suite at the Imperial Palace, and I went all out. And we had what she refers to as a Cinderella date. And then it came to who's going to move where. Well, guess who lost a coin flip on that one? That was me. So that was in 1992, and we're happily married, and that was the story.
The rest, as they say, is history. Well, the most people recognize you as the King of Venderville, and we didn't know that you were also Prince Charming of Vegas. Um,
Yeah, right.
but many might not be familiar with your contributions to sports in Arkansas, specifically softball. I can imagine that some of our viewers didn't know that you were a professional fast pitch softball pitcher. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and how you used that experience here in Arkansas?
Yeah, well, I played growing up playing baseball, football, basketball. I played them all, and never in a million years did I think the pinnacle of my athleticism was going to be throwing underhand like a girl, but that's the way it turned out, And so I'm about 21 years old. I'm going to digress, take you back to when I first started pitching. 21 years old, a friend of mine asked me to be on his dad's softball team. Went out and played, and played center field. I pulled one of the pitchers aside one practice, said, "Hey, kind of show me how you do that with your arm, that windmill pitch you do." So he gave me about a 2-minute tutorial, and I could really throw it hard. Everybody was blown away. So before every game, I would throw it against the fence, and everybody was really impressed how fast I could throw it. Now, I didn't know where I was going to go. You go up, you go down, and be all over the place. But so then they kept saying I was going to get the pitch, and I never did. So I finally put a team together myself for the next year, and got a lot of my buddies in there. And I said, I'm going to pitch. Well, I was so busy organizing the league, the team, buying uniforms, getting sponsorship, that I neglected to practice. Suddenly, the first game's there, and I'd never even pitched to a batter before. I step in the batter, and that strike zone looked like a keyhole. So I just reared back and threw it as hard as I could, and I nailed the guy right the side of the leg, and he limped down to first base. Second guy gets up and actually threw it behind his head and hit the bat, which, by the way, is a strike. And so we ended up losing 21-1.
Wow.
My guys wouldn't even talk to me after the game. So I thought, look, guys, just come back next week. It'll get better. And I spent hour after hour after hour that next week pitching. And I realized the faster I threw it, more accurate it was. So the next game came along next week, and I had practiced all week. We only lost 4-3. I actually had a couple of strikeouts and hit a few guys. But my guys were very upbeat. Thought, wow, okay, I think we can do well in this league. So out of fear that other pitcher is going to show up again, I kept practicing. I just want to suck, and be embarrassed out there. Well, I practiced myself into a good pitcher. And they moved me up to a higher league, and then a higher league and a higher league. And within 5 years, I was pitching world-class fast pitch softball. So from there, I got picked up by some of the celebrity teams like Rockin' Jocks and the Jacksons, and Tony Danza had a team called Danza Dukes. Kirstie Alley had a team. So I was doing that, but now I meet Monica. I moved to Arkansas, and I'm looking for a place to pitch myself. There was no men's fast pitch. So I had to go back to LA every 2 weeks and pitch softball, and you can only do that so long. So I thought, well, maybe I'll start teaching pitching. I do my research. There's no girls that are playing fast pitch here. They're only playing in Hot Springs, Mena, and Rogers High School had a team that they were playing over in Oklahoma. That was it. Whole state was playing slow pitch. So I thought, okay, I'm going to take care of that. I'm going to change this. So I went to the youth leagues and I said, we need to start playing fast pitch softball. It's the third most popular sport for girls in the United States. I feel like I've landed on the moon here. And they go, well, why should we play fast pitch when the high schools are playing slow pitch? So I go to the high schools and I said, you need to switch to fast pitch. It's the third most popular sport in the United States. They come back and say, why should we play fast pitch? The youth leagues are playing fast pitch, slow pitch. I thought, okay, that's it. So I went out and I threatened Title IX lawyers to AAA, and I rounded up some people that believed in what my mission was. We held our first meeting at UCA. that time, uh, U of A, Bev Lewis had just launched their first Razorback softball team, and they came with me down there for that meeting. And so I promoted the game of fast pitch, and they were reluctant. But the biggest thing they threw out at me said, "Okay, wise guy, who's going to teach all the girls in the state how to pitch?" And the place went quiet. So I thought, I'm going to do it. And so next 5 years, I traveled all over the state. Every weekend, my little truck would leave my garage about 4 in the morning. I'd be heading to Hot Springs and Hope, Arkansas, and Texarkana, putting on pitching clinics. So the first couple of years, it was real ugly. I mean, the girls were throwing the ball over the place. But now it's a runaway train. The entire state's playing right now. And I can tell you, I'm proud of what I did on the mound. I had some really good times, but I'm more proud about what I did after I got off the mound, what I did in Arkansas than I did striking out somebody. So here we go.
Well, you've shown incredible resiliency and determination in both building your company and courting your wife Monica, and um, really advocating for fast pitch softball in Arkansas. But now we're faced. Everybody's really faced. There's no industry that's untouched right now by COVID-19. How has the pandemic affected Cameron Smith and Associates?
Well, it clearly is affecting us. When it hit in early March, we were like a deer in the headlights, and we're watching the news like everybody else. And but our jobs were still intact. Then April came along. We lost a few. May even lost more jobs. When I say lost, we didn't lose them. They just put them on hold because they didn't know how they were going to onboard them. So it's been a slow decline. So right now, I would say as far as the volume of jobs that we work on, we're about 30 to 35% down. But we have other areas of executive search, like our construction division is blowing and going. I mean, there's no shortage of cranes in the sky in this town. So they're doing real well for us. And in the last couple of weeks, I've seen things come back a little bit. But you got to remember, our business is connected to Walmart. Walmart's doing quite well. And so, my guys are working harder. They've been with me 10 and 20 years. And they know that when chips get down, they can make up for it by working harder. And they're certainly doing that. And so we're starting to see a little bit of a comeback. We'll get through this.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned your move into the construction industry, as being something you are working on now that you weren't previously. What's next for Cameron Smith and Associates? Do you have more milestones you're looking to hit?
Well, certainly I've adopted the philosophy of never stop growing, which frustrates a lot of people in my firm and definitely my wife. But I'm always looking for the next area to move into. We looked at medical, we've looked at banking, we've looked at accounting, finance, we looked at IT. We do our due diligence, and then we've turned away from those areas. So we're always looking to grow. So the construction area took hold. That made a lot of sense for us. But to go deeper in our consumer product, what we built here with Walmart, we've also done in Target, Minneapolis, Dollar General, around all the big box retailers. There's a slight Vendorville, and we're not physically positioned there, but we recruit in those areas. So never stop growing. We're going to grow our international business. We're going to grow our C-suite business, our gender diversity board of directors business, and just keep growing.
So just keep growing would be a good piece of advice that you might give somebody. What's the best piece of advice that you've ever been given?
Oh boy, let's see. Be realistic, but dream big.
Who gave you that advice?
Don Soderquist.
And if you could go back in time, possibly, or even not necessarily go back in time to give advice to your younger self, maybe you're just giving advice to a young entrepreneur who's listening or watching right now, um, uh, what and this will be the last question I'll ask you. I'll let you get back to your evening. But what piece of advice would you give that young entrepreneur, maybe a young Cameron Smith?
Well, we're talking about how all the things that worked for me, but we'd be here for days if I tell you about all the things that didn't work for me. But when you're first starting out, you have this vision for this business. You got to ask a lot of questions. You have to do your due diligence. You've got to run the numbers, and make a plan. You don't want to go into it undercapitalized. Surround yourself with good people, get good mentorship. And, you know, but that being said, you can plan all day long. Where the rubber meets the road is the execution part of it. And so, um, if you're going to do this, you can't have one foot in, 1 foot out. You got to have both feet in. You have to be all in and believe in yourself. And good luck to you.
And luckily, for those that are interested in entrepreneurship and looking to put both feet in, the Startup Junkie Foundation is here for those of you who are interested in entrepreneurship and looking to go it out on your own, whether you just have a legal notepad and a dream or more than that. Cameron, we really appreciate you for joining us
Well,
this
thank you for
evening.
having me. I'm honored to be here.
We're honored to have you.